Hello, and today I would love to talk about the one thing that pisses me off about fitness industry. We all know that being consistent with your goals is the one thing that gets you to achieve your goals, right? Right. However, there is a really huge gap between being consistent and obsessive compulsion. Now, every day on the internet, I see hundreds of influencers and motivational speakers trying to push the narrative that you must not skip even a day of your training. You must arrive to the gym. The more you dig deeper in it, the more rigid that narrative becomes. Otherwise, you are skipping on your goals. You are skipping on your best self. Now, any professional in the fitness industry whose fitness isn't actually a coping mechanism is going to tell you that whether you go to the gym 4 or 5 times does not matter in the grand span of things. Whether you go to the gym 4 times per week or 5 times per week, or alternating between different weeks, is not going to make or break your progress. What might break your progress is burnout, which builds up over time if you create really rigid structures for how you should and shouldn't exist. If you are so used to going to the gym and the thought of skipping one day at the gym makes you uncomfortable, you must push in the direction of that discomfort and actually skip a day. No one is telling you to just lie on the couch and not do anything for the rest of the day. You may go for a walk, you might do something else, but the rigid mindset where you are only exercising if you are inside of the gym, if you're doing a certain type of movement, that is obsessive compulsion, and that is not healthy. I had the most fragile sense of self when I was the most consistent with my gym. And why? I was jobless. What did I do? I started going to the gym 4 to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. Now please answer me if you think that's healthy. As a boot camp, possibly, but not if you try to maintain that lifestyle every week, every month, every year for years on end. For a lot of people who aren't already in the fitness industry, who aren't already leading a certain lifestyle where they know for a fact that it's a core part of their personality, skipping a day or two may be a natural thing. However, if you also associated with a whole breadth of emotional value that we assign to not delivering on what we thought we would deliver, that turns into obsession, that turns into compulsion. And I know what I'm talking about because aside from being a psychologist and a person that leads a fitness lifestyle, I also used to have two eating disorders, one of them being compulsive overeating and another being bulimia, wherein after compulsively overeating I would go and throw up. And believe you me, I was doing it consistently. And what was pushing me to that was certainly not discipline, but rather obsession, compulsion, to achieve a certain stereotype where if I do achieve it, I can rest assured that my self-worth rests exactly where I want it. It is much easier to stay consistent if your consistency is actually driven by compulsion, by obsession, where you literally do not let yourself exist unless you perform certain rituals day in and day out. People who have substance abuse are extremely consistent with their substance usage. We're not calling that discipline, although we probably could. People who struggle with pathological lying lie pathologically with an admirable degree of consistency. Is that healthy? No. But where does it all come from? A fragile sense of self. Just like with anything else with life, if you have a fragile sense of self, you have to constantly feed yourself different bits of information that maintain that sense of self. Otherwise, it just crashes in your hands and you start having an existential crisis. And most people will try and avoid having an existential crisis because that's not very pleasant. You start questioning your existence. You start questioning whether your life is worth living, and that can lead you to depression. And depressed people are also very consistent with being depressed. Yet we do not praise them for it. If you're just starting out with a healthy lifestyle, it's crucial that you shift your focus from just showing up to why you're showing up, when you're showing up, where you're showing up, and whether you should be showing up in that particular place instead of another one. A lot of bodybuilders take it to the place where they start using steroids, which is not healthy at all, yet we continue to praise them on their discipline and consistency. Whereas instead, what's happening is this person is trying to feed a certain void within them by showing themselves evidence that they are worthy. Worthy of what? Worthy of belonging to a certain group that they wish that they would belong to. And yes, a lot of people make it into reality, but that reality revolves around them performing the same ritual over and over and over again, where in the end they become that ritual instead of being a person. If something happens in life where they are not able to show up in the exact same way, they literally crumble in front of your eyes. Their whole sense of self shatters because all that they know about themselves, everything that they have built revolved around just one single thing. And if you take that one single thing away from them, they simply don't know who they are anymore. And that's not health. that isn't healthy, because what can start happening in your body is inflammation, stress response, and rigidity. Your mind will get used to that habit, and I know because I get really used to different rituals. I know that unless I challenge those rituals, unless I challenge the discomfort I experience, I will get stuck in that ritual, and it will turn into a cycle where I can only exist happily if the cycle is complete and repeated. And I do not want my life to be revolved around a certain cycle. I do not want to revolve in cycles. I want my life to be, wherever it may take me. And that requires a degree of mental flexibility, not just physical. Commitment and obsession are very different. And I think it's really important that as a society we start to draw a boundary between those two, because obsession can show up not only in your relationship with gym, with the person, with your job, or literally anything else. The only thing you should potentially be obsessed with is having capacity to flow freely, because life is in the movement, and if you're constantly stuck in the same cycle, even if it is a cycle of exercise, that movement turns into rigidity, and rigidity turns into inertia.